Hi guys, this is Nicole Van Tassel with I Explore Science, creator of I Explore Academy, which is your guide to creating NGSS aligned curriculum. And my goal is to help you translate the NGSS from, a bunch of words and rhetoric and all of that stuff to something that you can actually put into work in your classroom. Okay, so today we are looking at flipping your lesson, so a simple switch to launch discovery. So teaching with the NGSS is about teaching differently. And it's more than changing content, although that's where a lot of us start. I know that's where I started. I did this whole revision, started with the NGSS. Okay, I'm going to totally revamp all the content. And it was only later on down the road that I realized totally missed the point there. It is changes to your it does result in changes to your content, but at its core, if you're teaching the same way that you taught before the NGSS, you are missing the biggest piece of the value of moving toward three-dimensional standards, which is three-dimensional instruction. And it's really also more than just talking about phenomena. We absolutely are bringing phenomena into our classroom, but what we do with that phenomena is also incredibly important. We have to change what we are doing in the classroom. So it's literally changing our role in the classroom. Okay, so what does that mean? What does NGSS instruction mean? What does three-dimensional instruction actually look like? I know that I talk a lot about exploration and discovery, and that is really a huge part of that shift. So today we are going to be looking at basically the mystery of this missing curiosity. What happened? The one thing that we need to stop doing, and then what you should be doing before you plan your next lesson to, again, get that simple shift that gets you working toward bringing in that exploration and discovery into your lessons. Okay, so the case of the missing curiosity. So I put these memes there, and basically, okay, don't ask questions, and spoilers everywhere. There are two reasons that, this is my theory, I don't have evidence to. I didn't do a research study. Okay. So this is my theory, but I think that we can all agree that our students typically don't, at the middle and high school levels, they don't come to us asking bazillions of questions, right? Elementary students, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, don't ever stop asking questions. They don't stop telling stories. They don't stop asking questions. But our students in middle and high school typically don't ask the same type of questions. In fact, trying to get them to ask questions can be like pulling teeth out. And I think part of that is because we have really trained them not to ask questions. We have spent all the years leading up to 6th, 7th, 8th grade, so on and so forth, telling them what they're supposed to know, telling them what they're supposed to learn, and really not inviting them to ask questions. We tell them ask questions to clarify instructions, ask questions to clarify their understanding about things. But we're not asking them to ask questions just to wonder about things, to think, to look at their observations and just to wonder. So they have no practice doing that by the time they get to us. On top of that, we typically tell them the end before they begin. So, and this happens a lot when we are doing our engage or our introduction demo, or we're showing a video to get our students interested. We show them this earthquake video, or we show them a video about, cancer. But the video or the text or the demo or whatever, while we're doing it or while we're showing it to them, we show them it, but then it explains what happened. It explains the answer. It tells them the end of the story before they even begin. So they have no reason to they have no reason to figure it out. They have no reason to be invested in finding out the answer. Or it's like reading the end of a book before you start the book. Who wants to read the end of the book? Who wants to watch the whole show when you know what happens at the very end? So that's why I put the spoilers thing. What's the chance that you're going to keep reading? So the one thing that we are doing that we really need to, this is not the one thing, but one of the things we need to stop doing is giving that answer or giving that explanation before we even start. I know when we're choosing our phenomena, a lot of times we want to like show like a cool video or something like that. But a lot of times the videos that we choose explain what happened. Like, here's an invasive species and it's destroying the whole population, and then the video shows how it like killed all the tree frogs because it ate them all. And it's okay, well, now why are they going to keep learning? Who cares? You just told me the answer, that invasive species ate all the tree frogs. Why would I care to learn more about this? So we really need to, first of all, stop giving the spoilers away, stop explaining the answer before we even start, give them a reason to try and figure it out. So beyond that, and this is the one thing we have to stop doing, teaching as telling. So how are you teaching? I heard this phrase, and I cannot for the life of me figure out where I heard this phrase, but I heard the phrase teaching as telling. And for a long time, I thought of like direct instruction, or like this type of instruction that we want to move away from, as PowerPoints and lectures and notes. But in reality, and the alternative given was like, let's be more student-centered. Let's have them work in stations and like read a text or watch a video. And I see this all the time with 5E lessons. For the exploration phase of the 5E lesson, which is supposed to be, again, exploration and like students figuring it out, it's, okay, let's watch a video and answer these questions. Or let's read a text together at your group and answer these questions. But teaching as telling encompasses so much more than just a teacher literally telling you the information. Teaching as telling is any time information is conveyed to students and students are just passively taking it in. But the reality is, and these are two quotes from an education researcher, teaching is not telling and learning is not having been told. And to say you have taught when students haven't learned is to say you've sold when no one has bought. Like, if nobody bought anything, you didn't sell anything. You tried to sell, you failed. Teaching when we're just telling our students doesn't mean their students are learning. When we're showing them the video and they're writing the answers down, or when we're giving them the notes and they're writing the answers down, they're not necessarily learning. And in fact, they're really not learning. They're just passively taking in that information. It's really in one ear and out the other. And it's not three-dimensional instruction because it's not bringing in any science and engineering practices. It's not minds-on because it's not asking them to put any ideas together. It's not asking them to manipulate ideas or think through anything or figure anything out. It's literally, here's the information. I might tell it to you verbally. I might have you read it in a text. I might have you watch a video to see it. But either way, you are a passive taker of this information, and I'm just blabbering on at you. Basically what I'm doing right now. So what we want to move toward instead is actually engaging our students in the practices of science and having them do that exploration and that discovery. And this is the one thing that you need to do before you start. So this will be a short little lesson today. This is the one thing that you want to do before you start planning your next lesson. So this is a quote from the framework. The framework is what the NGSS were based on. It is, I mean, like literally if you go to the NGSS, like excerpts are pretty much taken from the framework, almost verbatim or verbatim, I can't remember. But this quote, so the actual doing of science or engineering can also pique students' curiosity, capture their interest, motivate their continued study. The insights gained help them recognize that the work of scientists and engineers is a creative endeavor, one that has deeply affected the world they live in. So this absolutely ties into this idea of like tuning into our students and engaging them, getting their curiosity, capturing their interest, motivating them to continue their study. When we just tell students information, we're conveying that like science is this passive thing where, okay, here's a bunch of facts and this is the way it is. When we're engaging them in the practices, they're actually getting to experience like science in the real world, which is actually being creative and figuring things out and asking questions and really, I don't know if there was a comment. Okay. Get out of my head. I just talked about this last week in a workshop. That's funny. I can't see who is commenting because of like the ECAN system I used, but that's funny. But yeah, so we need to be engaging our students in doing science. So the first thing that you want to do before you start your next lesson is like, well, first of all, you have your objective, your big idea you want students to figure out. This is like what you've already done, right? We all know this is the lesson and this is what I want my students to walk away with. The thing that you need to do before you plan anything else out in that activity is to figure out which science and engineering practice is going to allow your students to figure out that idea on their own. Like, are they going to be able to see that idea if they analyze data? Are they going to be able to see that idea by manipulating a model and just monkeying around with it and figuring out how these two components relate to each other? Are they going to be able to see that idea if they carry out like an investigation and you involve them in planning an investigation to test some ideas here? There are certain practices that lend themselves to this exploration, and there's others that don't. Like, you wouldn't really necessarily engage your students in argumentation during an exploration, because you want them to have some sort of evidence to argue from. You probably aren't going to have them construct an explanation before an exploration. Those kind of practices are more sense making and are more like meaning making, and they typically follow up an exploration. But there's always like a back and forth. So you do some exploration, you do some monkeying with your models, and then you're working on constructing an explanation, and then you go back and you monkey with your model some more to figure it out. Or you take another look at the data, or you carry out another investigation or whatever. It's absolutely not like a linear thing. You're going back and forth. But either way, for the exploration component, your goal is to see, how can my students figure this out? And a lot of times it's a practice. Sometimes it can just be by looking at the issue or at the concept through a cross-cutting concepts lens. Another, beyond like the practices, sometimes you can have students simply look for patterns. So here's a bunch of examples. Let's look for patterns and see if you can figure out this idea by looking for a pattern. Or let's go through this idea. Let's look at these examples and see if we can, or like let's look at a timeline maybe and see if we can identify some cause and effect relationships, like things that always happen after another event. And then discussing, cause versus correlation and all that. But either way, the goal is that you have your objective. You want your students to figure this objective out, and you need to figure out what practice or potentially which cross-cutting concept. Ideally, you want your activities and your storylines to embed all three, but starting points here, let's focus on one thing at a time. So which practice, or maybe which concept can you use to help students come to that big idea on their own? They're for sure not going to get all of the details by themselves. You can't expect that. They're not going to discover the vocabulary on their own, but they can walk away with the big idea, the big framework, the foundation, and then you can move from there to add the details and to build onto their ideas. And that's really what exploration and discovery is about. And that's what's going to like pique their interest and get them like involved. And it is a struggle at first. Like, I don't want to say, okay, this is just so easy. They just are going to embrace figuring it out, because students who have been spoon-fed information for 12 years are going to say, no, I just want you to tell me the information. Just give me the notes. I'm going to memorize it. And then half of them don't memorize it anyway. But eventually, when you give them the supports that they need, they eventually do rise to the challenge, because it's exciting having that moment, that like aha moment. It's exciting knowing you figured that out on your own. It's fun and interesting, like being actually involved in your learning. And again, it takes time, it takes relationships, it takes all of those things, but it's definitely something that's possible for all students to do, and it is a way more effective method of actually teaching our students than simply telling them, whether it's via notes or videos or text or whatever. Okay, so I want to share with you, I'm doing a special, like, I don't know, it's not really a boot camp, it's not really a challenge, it's kind of like a little training series. It's called How to Anchor. It's totally free. You can register. It's no cost, totally free. But it's about bringing relevant NGSS to your science classroom. So I'm going to be covering, so basically the foundation for all of your relevant science instruction is built on. How to frame your unit so your students actually want to puzzle it out, and then what you can do to ensure long-lasting engagement in your unit. It's going to be 3 days of like emails with a little video, and then a final workshop on the last day. That'll be a live workshop in my Zoom room, so you will be able to interact, ask questions, chat, all of that. Again, it's totally free. You can register, and I'll post the link, but at iExploreScience.com/anchor. and I will post the link. As always, though, we can continue working together. You can check out the Kickstart AHA Intro to the NGSS mini course. The goal, with that course is an introduction to covering it all when it comes to the NGSS. What does it mean to your content? Why are your students naturally going to be invested in these NGSS units? So looking at phenomenon, looking at storylines, and then how to shift your ownership in an NGSS classroom from the teacher being the giver of all knowledge to the students being that the exploration. So the students being the discoverers of knowledge and the figure outers. And as always, you have an open invitation to iExplore Academy if you are rebuilding your science curriculum to be aligned to the NGSS. That is literally what we walk you through at iExplore Academy. Plus, you get all the human support and all that. And school and district programs, I am looking to work with about 5 districts this summer, revamping their science curriculum to really tune into their students and create customized curricula based on your students, your communities. So anyway, this was a nice little quick, easy training, an introduction to exploration and discovery, moving away from teaching as telling and embracing that exploration and explore before explain approach. If you have questions about this, let me know. I have a ton of articles about exploration and the 5E model, exploration, explore before explain, all of that at the blog. But definitely, I hope you will join me for how to anchor bringing relevant NGSS to your science classroom. And I will catch you at our next training. Have a great afternoon, guys.